Today, I want to talk to you about life. There's an interesting story about Buddha, that he was sitting one day surrounded by all his disciples when an angel appeared to him and said, "How long do you want to live? Ask for 1,000,000 years and they will be given to you." And Buddha said unhesitatingly, 80 years. When the angel disappeared, his disappointed disciples complained to Buddha. They said, "Master, why didn't you ask to live for 1,000,000 years? Think of the good you would have done to hundreds of generations." And the old man replied with a smile, "If I live to be 1,000,000 years, people will be more interested in prolonging their lives than in seeking for wisdom." You know what he meant? They would be more interested in surviving than in improving the quality of their lives. And how true that is. How few people spend any of their time and their energy in improving the quality of their existence. I'm reminded of an actor saying to another in a movie that I saw some time ago. Says the actor, "You know, John, when you come to die, you will die without ever having lived." People, well, seem to be alive. They're breathing, they're eating, they're talking, they're conversing, they're moving around. But they're not dead, of course. But are they alive? They're neither dead nor alive, really. Now you might say, could I be one of those? Well, here's a checklist for you. What does it mean to be really alive? It means three things. It means to be you, to be now, and to be here. Let's talk about those three things. To be alive means to be you. And in the measure that you are you, you are alive. You will say, "Am I not me? Who would I be if I'm not me?" Well, it's quite possible that you may not be you, that you may be a puppet. Let me explain that. Suppose we had a dog and we inserted an electronic receptor in the brain of that dog, and then we sent that dog off to another country, to China, let's say. And then from here, we keep sending signals to that dog. We say, "Stand up," and the dog stands up. We say, "Sit down," and the dog sits down. We say, "Lie down," and the dog lies down. And everybody is amazed. What's happening to this dog? You know what's happening? He is subject to remote control. Now that is a pretty good image of millions of people. People come to me so often to consult me about their spiritual problems, about their emotional problems. And again, I find myself asking myself, to what voices is this person here responding? To what voice of the past? Here's a person who's depressed. Here's another one who's anxious. There's a third one who's prejudiced. Have you ever heard that saying of Albert Einstein, that it is more difficult to disintegrate a prejudice than the atom? Well, here you have these people who are really not themselves at all. They're controlled. Now, what is the result of that? They become puppets. They have mechanical behavior, mechanical feelings, mechanical attitudes and convictions, not alive feelings, not alive behavior, and they don't know it. Because as I told you, they're responding to voices, the voices of people from the past, the voices of past experiences. They've had some experiences that affect them and control them, so they are not free and not alive. Well, this is what I consider to be a major obstacle in the spiritual life. Remember that phrase of Jesus when he says, "If you want to be my disciple, you must hate your father and mother"? That's a strong word, hate. And people are scandalized by it. What does that mean? Surely Jesus doesn't mean that we must hate our real father and mother. Poor things, we must love them as we love all other human beings. I think that the father and mother that Jesus is talking about is the father and mother we carry around in our heads that control those voices. That is what we must drop. That is what we must give up, so that we will give up our mechanical existence. We will stop being puppets. Because how can you have a spiritual life, I ask you, if you are not alive? How can you be a disciple of Jesus if you're mechanical, if you are a puppet? All right? So then how do we drop the mechanicalness in our life? I'm going to give you an exercise that seems so simple that you'd hardly believe that it works, but it isn't an easy one. And if you persevere in it, you will see the difference. And the exercise is this. You could even try it out as I am talking to you. Think of an event in the recent past, something that happened yesterday, something that happened in the past week. It could even be an unpleasant event. In fact, if it is unpleasant, the better. And what I want you to do now is observe yourself reacting. How are you reacting emotionally? And what kind of convictions and attitudes, of course, you won't call them prejudices, but what kind of convictions and attitudes do you have in that event? Just look at that and ask yourself, what voice am I responding to? Or you could say, is somebody else reacting there for me? Someone that I am carrying around from the past? Now, this exercise has lasted a few seconds or a minute at the most. If you really want to get what it brings, then you'll have to take more time and observe various events of the day. Look at yourself reacting. Just look. Don't judge, don't condemn, don't approve. Just be a neutral observer and look. You need not even ask that question that I suggested, what am I reacting to, or who is reacting in me? What voice am I responding to? You need not even ask that if that distracts you. Just look. And the mechanicalness will drop, and the life will begin to come in, and you will notice the change. In the last program, I spoke to you about this paralyzed woman, remember? Well, I'm going to talk to you in this program about an extraordinary paralyzed man that I met. He said to me, Father, I really began to live after I became paralyzed, because for the first time in my life, I had the time to look at myself and to see my life and to see how I was reacting and to see how I was thinking. And as a result, life has become so much deeper and richer and much more appealing than it has ever been before. Isn't that interesting? That a paralyzed man would find life, and so many people who would be moving around freely would not find it because they would be paralyzed inside. That is the great block. No time. That's what they tell me everywhere. We have no time. Where are we going to find the time for this? Well, what are you spending your time on? On maintaining this mechanical existence of yours? It reminds me of that mugger who says to a man, your money or your life. And the man says, well, you better take my life because I need my money for my old age. Now, if you find that funny, think of this. Think of people saying, well, you better take my life because I need my time to maintain my puppet existence. If it wasn't a tragedy, it would really be funny. Well, this is, let me summarize then what I have given to you in when I spoke to you about being you. I said, observe your reactions at every event of the day. Observe your convictions. Question them. Are you open to questioning your convictions? If you're not, you're prejudiced. You're mechanical. I'm reminded of a brilliant young rabbi who succeeded an equally brilliant father, who was also a rabbi. His people said to him, Rabbi, you are completely unlike your father. And the young man laughed. He said, I'm exactly like my father. My father imitated no one. I imitate no one. He was not a carbon copy, neither am I. That's what it means to be alive, to be unique, to drop those voices and the remote control. And you will get it through observation. There is a second thing that you need to be alive, and that is to be now. What does that mean? That means to understand, first of all, something that very few people understand, namely that the past is unreal, that the future is unreal, and to live in the past and to live in the future is to be dead. Oh, I know there are wonderful things in the past and we can learn lessons from the past and the past has influenced and shaped us, etc. Fine, but it's not real. And we must plan for the future, and that's excellent. In fact, if you hadn't planned for the future, in all likelihood you wouldn't be listening to me now. That's fine, but the future isn't real. It is a notion in our heads. And as long as you live in the past and in the future, you're not now. You're not here. Let me explain that by means of a comparison. Suppose there's a family that's going on a trip to Switzerland for a 3-day vacation. And they spend months on end planning that vacation. And the moment they get there, they're spending most of their time planning their trip back. And you know, when they are there, instead of taking in all of that gorgeous scenery, instead of soaking in the atmosphere, they're busy taking pictures, which they will show to their friends when they get back. Pictures of places where they never were. Well, they were there physically, but they weren't really there. They were somewhere else. Unreal vacation, unreal lives. You know, we live in a future culture, the culture of tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be happy. Tomorrow I'll live. Like, as soon as I get through high school, I will live. As soon as I get through college, I live. Then when you've got to college, you say, well, when I get married, I live. And then after you're married, you say, well, when the children grow up, I live. And by the time the children have grown up, you don't know what it means to live. And in all likelihood, you will die without having ever lived. You ready for a shock? Listen. Examine your own life. Watch all your thinking and think how often you are in the past and the future. How many minutes of your day are spent in the past or in the future? You might get a shock because you might realize how little you are in the present, how little alive you are. Think of it this way. You're peeling this orange so that you will eat it. Now, if your mind is all fixed only on the eating of the orange, you know what's likely to happen? In all likelihood, you're not peeling the orange because you're not there. And when you come to eat that orange, you will not eat the orange because you will be somewhere else. Like the story of that boatman, this wise and ancient boatman who is carrying pilgrims across the river in his boat. so that they can go to a shrine. One day someone says to the boatman, "Didn't you ever go to the shrine?" And the boatman says, "No, not yet, because I still haven't taken in everything that the river has to offer me. This river, I find peace here. I find wisdom. I find God. But these poor pilgrims, they don't even notice the river. Their minds are all set on the shrine. They don't see it." Could that be the story of our lives? That we're washing the cup to drink the coffee, and so we're really not washing the cup because we're not there, and we never drink the coffee because we're not there, and so it goes on and on and on. That would be a tragedy, wouldn't it? We would have missed out on life.